Let's talk money.
I don't have your money.
I know I'd be a lot happier with some extra cash.
Is this about money?
Obviously, this is all about money.
Oh, man, we got bills to pay, buddy.
With practical tips and a focus on scripture, let's talk money. With Dave and Reb. From More Than Enough. Real conversations about money for real people. Let's talk money.
Are you ready to talk money, Reb?
I'm ready to talk money.
We were just talking on the way in how easy it is to talk money with our guest and between you and I. So it's going to be a good show. A little bit of housekeeping before we introduce our guest. I want to say a big thank you out to LTR Industries, one of our sponsors of the show. They do custom millwork. So if you're a commercial or a business who manages your own space and you're like, I want to make a beautiful space for my employees to be comfortable and working, then call LTR. They will design, create, and put it all into practice for you. So they make it easy to create beautiful spaces at work. So that's LTR Industries. And of course, we know them and we love them.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. If you call them, let them know that you heard about them on the
podcast,
show. Yeah.
So speaking of which, where to get the podcast. If you're listening, you've got your favorite podcast channel. Maybe you're on 99.1 in the Ottawa area. Maybe you're in West Island, Montreal. Maybe you're up in Pembroke. That's the local reach here. And from CHRI in the studio on Friday mornings at 9. And of course, we're on YouTube. We're on all your podcasting platforms. So if you are like, I heard you in the car and I only caught half a show, morethanenough.ca, obviously that hosts the podcast, chri.ca, there's a recording there, notmine.ca. So we've got lots of places there we partner and host. And then, like I said, on any of the podcasting platforms, Spotify, YouTube, all of that stuff.
Great, thanks. I was like, let's get on with the show.
No.
There is a scripture verse that Dave and I have quoted often enough on the show, but I think really relates 100% to what we're going to talk about this morning. And I'll just leave you waiting in suspense for a moment longer. It's the verse from Proverbs 27, verse 12. And in the Message paraphrase version, it says, "A prudent person sees trouble coming and ducks. A simpleton walks in blindly and is clobbered."
Love it.
Yeah.
Such a good picture.
It does.
For our topic today.
So
Suspense
a prudent person being someone wise, when they see trouble coming, will duck, of course. And financially, we've talked about just knowing that trouble is going to come. Emergencies are going to happen. So in preparation for that, we want to do some things like we've talked about on the show before, like building an emergency cushion, paying your debt down. And in this climate of financial, economic unrest, perhaps in Canada, you might be sick of this topic already. But we want to talk today about how important the tool of an emergency cushion is. And we've invited a very special guest from the Canada's Financial Wellness Lab on an idea that they're percolating. They've written a white paper around about having an emergency savings account, but is actually directed through your employer. So before we get to that, Fabrizio Di Muro, we welcome you to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are a professor, associate professor of marketing at the University of Winnipeg, but you're also a part of this financial wellness lab that comes out of Western University. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, we're so glad to have you. But I had asked Dave about the emergency cushion, and he had a couple thoughts this morning just to set the stage.
So again, for those of you who are familiar with the podcast, we have been in the financial wellness, I'll say,
space
for 20 years. We've been helping the Canadian family get better or more financially fit than they are now, wherever you are in the journey. But the first step, the first place that we talk about, and it is often I say it's the hardest step. The first step is the hardest step, and that is building an emergency cushion. And it is like the essential tool in your toolbox when we talk about financial tools. It's like showing up to work if you're a contractor and not showing up with your hammer. It is an emergency is going to happen. It's not a matter of if it will happen. It's a matter of when it's going to happen. And when an emergency happens, that's when you pull the emergency cushion out of your toolbox and you say, boy, I'm ever glad I have this tool in place because I need it now.
But you also said the bank has an answer for that.
Correct. So what we've been told by most of the financial institutions, and again, historically, we go to maybe the bank to get some advice around our personal finances, and the advice from the bank, because the bank sells money, that their natural response to that is going to be, you don't really need to save money for an emergency cushion. Have a line of credit or have your credit card. That's just in case you don't have the money. That'll help carry you through. But that advice has a negative consequence. When we have an emergency, by definition, there's some crisis, there's some chaos, there's something that's going on, and we can't handle it within our regular spending. And so going to a line of credit where now that interest cost is going to compound monthly your emergency, it's going to make it worse. You may be able to buy some time, but at the end of the day, that's going to compound against you and actually make your emergency worse. Whereas, comparatively, if you have an emergency cushion in place, when you're not using it, hopefully you've got a little bit of interest coming in, it's growing a little bit. And when you use it, there's no negative compounding. You use it, and now it's like, okay, I have to build it back up. That will come as you make it your way through the emergency to the other side. But in that time space, it's not compounding against you.
Well, and this is why we've asked Fabrizio to come on the show with us this morning to tell us what the Financial Wellness Lab has researched and the white paper that they've helped create that might be a solution for people who are having trouble building that emergency cushion.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you tell us a little bit about this?
Absolutely. Thank you. That's a great question. So, the first thing is that most people don't have an emergency fund. So 33% of Canadians don't have any emergency savings at all. 50% of Canadians have some emergency savings, but not an adequate amount. So it's only about 15% of Canadians that do have an adequately funded emergency savings account.
Wow.
So letting Canadians save for this on their own just hasn't been working. And I don't blame them because it's very hard to save money. So in our white paper, we propose a different approach. And that is, let's use the workplace to help Canadians build emergency savings funds. So workplace-sponsored emergency savings funds. So that means that an employee who signs up for this program would receive a paycheck deduction that is deposited into a dedicated emergency savings account. And then when an unexpected expense arises, they can use this money to pay for the unexpected expense.
I love it. I mean, I think it's, again, the idea here, we know, and you probably know those statistics better or more current than I do, that Canadians are terrible at savings in general, right? Our savings statistics over the last number of years has been woefully dismal in terms of the amount that the Canadian family is saving. But it also reminds me of we have certain employers that are, integrating that long-term perspective in savings as part of their deductions, whether that's in a pension or whether that's in some sort of RSP matching or even stock options that are included in your paycheck to say, these things are happening automatically. And of course, what we know about human nature is that when I get the paycheck and that's the money I get to spend, having some of that taken off ahead of time actually does get the job done, so to speak. And we see that with charities as well. So some of those paycheck for charities happens before. And again, those are just easy ways for us to say, now the money that comes in my bank account, I'm the one managing that. I know I've taken care of these really important things that have happened ahead. So I love it.
Yeah. What led to this research? What led you to say, this might be a really great solution for the Canadian family?
Yeah. So if you look at it, people have trouble saving on their own, as you've highlighted. So if it's done through the workplace, it makes savings automatic and easy. If it's a paycheck deduction, it's automatic and easy. And so Canadians are going to save more with a lot less effort if it's done in this fashion. So that's the main benefit for Canadians. And then, it's a benefit for employers as well, because Canadians are feeling a lot of financial stress. So 50% of Canadians do live paycheck to paycheck. 50% of Canadians could not accommodate a 1-week delay in pay. 25% of Canadians could not cover a $500 unexpected expense. And if that unexpected expense reaches $1,000, then 60% of Canadians can't cover that. Credit card debt is at an all-time high in this country at $125 billion outstanding. So and people don't have emergency savings. So we do need a new approach. People are having trouble saving on their own. If it's done through the workplace with automatic payroll deductions, it makes it effortless and easy for Canadians. The financial stress that Canadians face does spill over into the workplace in the form of lost productivity. The average Canadian spends approximately 30 minutes a day dealing with their financial stress. Mm-hmm. And that lost productivity costs Canadian companies $70 billion in lost productivity collectively. Mm-hmm. So if people feel less financial stress, then it's obviously going to benefit the individual Canadian, but it will benefit the employer as well, because less financial stress means less financial stress that spills over into the workplace, which means that $70 billion figure in lost productivity should be significantly reduced.
That's a big number, in terms of lost productivity, but also, and I'm going to gravitate towards just the kind of the emotional and the down to the grassroots practicality. I know just from working with the families that we do, when that emergency cushion's in place, there's like this sigh of relief. There's like, okay, I know that it's there for a purpose. And then on the flip side, when an emergency happens, I also see them going, I don't want to touch the emergency cushion. And I'm like, no, you actually need to now. Like, this is why it's here. Pull that tool out of the toolbox, so to speak. But there's often a resistance to actually accessing it. And so in that way, have you walked through the mechanism of how does that happen? Is it an account that the person could access right away? Like, what does that look like? What does an emergency look like? There's a special on sofas. Does that constitute an emergency? Like, how do you manage that part when we're doing the savings through the paycheck? Yeah,
absolutely. So at the Financial Wellness Lab, we do recommend that the emergency savings account is 2-tiered. And the first tier is approximately $2,500 for more frequent but less impactful financial shocks like a house repair, a car repair, and so forth. And we recommend that goes into just a bank account, that those paycheck deductions get deposited into a bank account in the employee's name so that it's their money. They can access it instantly. They don't have to tell the employer why they need the money. So that's our first tier. Our second tier is approximately 3 or 4 months of income for less frequent but more impactful financial shocks. So things like a job loss, disability, long-term illness. And we recommend that should be probably placed in a TFSA so that maybe you can grow it a little bit conservatively or maybe more aggressively if the individual chooses that path. So that's the recommended structure of our emergency savings account. And again, if it's in a bank account, if it's in a TFSA, those accounts are in an employee's name. They can access the money when they want, when they need it. The employer doesn't know, they don't know why. It's an ideal situation for the employee and also for the employer because it's people have less financial stress that leads to greater productivity at work.
So you mentioned this before to me when we were chatting that that financial stress is when you have an emergency cushion, it's alleviated. But how does that work? Why would an emergency cushion really alleviate stress? Why would that lead to more savings? Why would that lead to paying down debt?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Rebecca. And the bottom line is that the emergency savings account is a game changer for most Canadians. And that's because research shows that people who have 1 month's income saved as emergency savings, they're less likely to fall behind on debt. And they're less likely to incur a new type of debt when an emergency arises. They're also more likely to keep their retirement savings intact. So it is a game changer. Because when you think about it, when an emergency comes, how do most people handle it? They, maybe they put it on their credit card, so they incur some debt, or they dip into retirement savings to cover it. So if you have this cushion, you're less likely to incur new debt. It's going to keep you on track for paying off your existing debt. And you're going to be you're going to be more likely, I got that wrong again. You're going to be less likely to dip into your RSP savings.
Like, that's an amazing thing to me, because when we chatted about it before, I was like, an emergency cushion, or as you're calling it, the emergency savings account can do all that. It must be building some confidence in people and families that, I've got this emergency place where I can go, now I can take some of these extra funds, or maybe I can find some extra funds, put it towards my debt, or gaining some confidence. And I think that's an amazing part of the research you do that you found, because I don't know if I would have linked those two things. I don't know if the average listener is like, if I have an emergency cushion savings account, I'm actually going to work harder at putting money towards my debt or my retirement savings.
I wonder too, I don't know if you have any research from that, but, I'm just thinking about the cost that is associated with when an emergency happens and I go to my credit card. I talked about that a little bit earlier. There's an interest cost that it doesn't really, it happens, it comes out of your account automatically because that interest usually is exactly that. It's kind of the, I'm going to say, the hidden cost of emergency. Do you have any stats around that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When people do have an emergency and they don't have that emergency savings account, one of the potential responses is that they put it on their credit card and they don't pay that credit card off. And so perhaps it's not a coincidence that many people in Canada, probably about 85% of Canadians, either don't have an emergency fund or they don't have an adequately funded emergency account. So maybe it's as I say, it's not a coincidence that we have that many people without emergency funds and that credit card debt is at a record high in Canada in terms of there's about $125 billion outstanding that's owing. So is that all emergencies? It's hard to say, but that's what the potential number is.
When a person has an emergency and they're part of this program with their employer and their roof starts leaking, they need access to that money. Do they actually, is it their bank account? Is that, I know you were talking about it before, but I was thinking about the nitty gritty. Like my roof is leaking. I need that $500, $1,000, and I can just go withdraw it. I don't need to talk to my employer. I don't need to make get an approval, so to speak.
Absolutely. That's how it works. The money would be in a bank account in your name, so you can just access it when the emergency arises. You don't need to talk to your employer. You don't need to ask anyone anything. You just go and take out the money and deal with your emergency.
So I'm going to ask this question, but is there a catch? Is there something I'm going to sign up for this and I'm like, there's going to be some fee or legal thing or...
No, there's no catch at all. This is a program that is meant to benefit Canadians and also meant to benefit Canadian employers. Because again, an employee who signs up for this will build an emergency savings account. And then when they have these unexpected expenses, they have the funds to use them and they can access them quickly. And from the employer side, the financial stress that seeps into the workplace costs Canadian companies $70 billion in lost productivity each year. So if people have less financial stress, that figure should lower. Employers who offer this program should see, a 5 to 10% reduction in turnover. This would be a novel program in Canada. There are almost no Canadian employers that offer this.
Is this happening anywhere else in the world, actually?
It is. So it's not a completely brand new idea. It has happened in the UK and it is happening in the US. So 77% of American employers either already offer this program or are planning to offer it. So there are a couple places in the world where this has happened.
So you said 77% of employers in the US do it or want to.
They either have it or they're planning to do it.
Wow. That's a big number in my head. So what is happening?
Let's get it going in Canada.
Yeah, so let's get it going in Canada. I hear that you're pretty passionate about this idea.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, as you mentioned at the outset, we have a white paper where we detail how a program can be designed, how it can be implemented. And so if employers reach out to the Financial Wellness Lab, we can help make it happen for their workplace.
Now, does this have to get some approval by the local governments or the federal government? Is this something that the employer decides to be a part of? And we don't need any bureaucratic upper level stuff interfering.
It's up to the employer. It's really up to the employer to implement the program. And that's why we're on your show. We hope that Canadian employers hear about this on your show and say, hey, let's give this a whirl. Or we hope that employees hear this and they go to their employer and they say, hey, listen, there's this workplace sponsored emergency savings account. Do you think you guys could put it in? And then we can all benefit.
And so the next step, as you just said, is for them to contact the Wellness Lab at Western University and find out more.
Yeah, we hope that a potential employer will contact our lab and then we can help them put the program into place.
Okay. That's as easy as it is.
That's it. It's really that simple.
the article that caught our attention, the title of the article was "Bold Solution to Financial Stress." And as you and I are talking, I'm like, it sounds like it's this bold thing, but it's actually just helping. Like the idea isn't bold. The mechanism on how to implement the idea is makes a lot of sense. Like, again, so I smiled after I read the article, and then I went back to the title and thought, this is just a make sense. I know that doesn't sell articles and doesn't catch your attention, but this is just a make sense way to help the Canadian family create better financial health in their everyday lives.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the perfect situation because it would be a new idea for Canada. But this idea at the same time has been trialed elsewhere. So we have something to go by. We know that it works. So it's perfect. Right?
Plus
we know
the
it's going to work.
Yeah.
Plus the idea of an emergency savings account, or as we call it, an emergency cushion, isn't new. We've been talking about it for a long time. And any of our listeners today, we have gone on and on about it. So this is just a new thing for Canadians that you can be a part of. And as a listener, if you'd like your employer to be a part of this, then you can take steps to ask your employer, tell them about it. I'm going to have the article in the show notes that I read that it tweaked my curiosity. And that's why we got to have this fabulous associate professor on our show today. Just in the last minute, can you give a little plug for the Financial Wellness Lab?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Financial Wellness Lab is a research center where people get together to crack the code on financial wellness. So we have people from multiple disciplines. We have mathematicians, we have psychologists, we have marketers, and we're all working together to try to make Canadians more financially comfortable, get them out of financial stress, and get them to the point where they're financially comfortable.
And that is kind of a really nice feeling to know as a Canadian that there's someone out there looking into researching and developing solutions for what we may think may be very simple. Just don't spend more than you make. But it's way more heart, psychological, brain work than just not spending more than you make.
Mm-hmm. So we'll exit the show here. Just a little, again, thank you so much for joining us. I'm super excited that there are these really smart people coming up with these really great ideas. And now I am an advocate, say, let's get this into the market. If you are a employer, I'm going to just call it out. We have our sponsor from LTR Industries, who I said, listen, you're an employer, you have some space, you want to make a great space for your employees. That's going to be more productive. You're going to help your employees. This is another tool to help your employees to become better, more financially. What's the word I'm looking for? I just lost it. More financially secure. I'm just going to say that. So listen, calling out the employers that are listening, and reach out to the Wellness Lab. Reach out to us if you need a connection there. We're happy to do that. If you're an employee, reach out to us, get your employer. Let's see if we can start the wave of a really good idea taking root here in Canada. Thank you again, Fabrizio, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor to be on your show.
And for those of you listening, join us next week when we talk money.
Let's Talk Money is a division of More Than Enough Financial Fitness, where God is transforming hearts and bringing hope for today and freedom for tomorrow. For more information or to comment on today's show, please visit morethanenough.ca.